Leave it to our storm hunter Mark Robinson to relax on a waterfall. Thanks so much for tuning into the Weather Network. Michelle Mackey joining you. Our big story today through southern Ontario, the extreme cold wind chill values, particularly through the overnight, are going to be into the mid-20s, -30s. So cold that Environment Canada has issued an extreme cold warning for much of southern Ontario, Goderich, east towards Peterborough, my hometown, and Tweed, all in the grips of that frigid Arctic air mass. Now, as we move into the overnight, I mentioned the wind chills. Here's a look at the temperatures. -15 for the city of Toronto, and that's fairly widespread, slightly colder as we head up towards Barrie, but it's going to be clear. So if you have any travel plans, Saturday is the day to do it. I'll tell you why in a moment. But first, let's take a look across the country. It's fairly quiet. High pressure is dominating most of Canada, and because of that, clear skies giving us the perfect weekend to view the northern lights. So if you're thinking of doing something a little bit different, heading up towards northern Ontario, well, there's a good chance that you could see Aurora Borealis. So get out there. Might be a good day to do that on Saturday night traveling, because I mentioned Saturday, clear, sunny, but cold. And come Sunday, that's the appetizer. That's what I'm calling it anyways. It's the appetizer storm. We're going to be getting some light snow through southern Ontario. It's going to continue through your Sunday. Should clear up, though, for the Monday morning commute in the GTA. That's the good news. But I want to point out Tuesday. You can see the snow comes back into play, but the temperatures do take a bit of a rise, -1 by Wednesday. That's downright balmy in comparison to the frigid temperatures that we've had the past week. Now, I want to give you a little bit of an outlook why we're seeing all of that snow, the mixing potential for Tuesday. It's a Colorado low. It phases in with an Alberta clipper, picks up some moisture from the Gulf, and this is going to bring us widespread active weather through the province Tuesday into Wednesday, I should say. Snow developing, but depending on the temperatures, that's going to bring us mixing precipitation. Well, it's the last Friday in February. How about that? Michelle Mackey joining you in today for Gary Archibald. It's great to see you. We are under the grip of yet another extreme cold warning through southern Ontario. So cold that communities in the Bruce and Grey counties are actually asking their residents to lightly run their taps to prevent pipes from freezing and bursting. 0 degrees in the city of Toronto since January the 24th. It's been a while. Let's take a look at the comparison. 34 days we've had in a row without topping 0 degrees. We're in 4th place for the all-time record. But come tomorrow, we are going to bump up into 3rd place. That's easy to do. Here's a look ahead for the next 3 days. You can see the good news is by Saturday through southern Ontario, we do start to see those temperatures rise slightly, but it's going to feel quite nice in comparison to the frigid temperatures that we've had this week. And then Sunday, that's where we get into some light snow. That is all thanks to some energy coming from the south, and we also have a bigger storm on the way next Tuesday for southern Ontario. I'll tell you more about that in just a moment, but first, let's check in with our storm hunter Mark Robinson in Ancaster. Thanks, Mark. Yes, the spring outlook, March the 3rd, beginning at 6 a.m. That's next Tuesday. You don't want to miss it. Not only a snapshot across the country, but by later in the evening, your regional spring forecast. All right, let's get back into our weather story. You can see high pressure is dominating through Saturday through Ontario. Any travel plans? Saturday is the day to do it. Maybe get out, enjoy a nice winter day with the kids, because come Sunday, the roads are going to get slick through southern Ontario as we watch this low move into play. We're also keeping our eye on this guy. This is going to form a Colorado low that's going to be a big weather maker moving into Tuesday. We're going to have lots more about that coming up throughout the hour. Here's what we can expect for Sunday, though. You can see generally less than 2 centimeters of snow, trace amounts. The bigger amounts are going to be down through southwestern Ontario. Windsor could very well see about 5 centimeters of snow, but the bulk of that snow remains stateside, and again, that big storm coming on Tuesday.
To upload your photos.
Thanks for making the Weather Network a part of your Friday afternoon. Michelle Mackey joining you, heading into the last weekend of February. Are you ready for it to be over? Me too. All right, let's get into our weather story. We are talking about significant ice cover through our Great Lakes. About 85% of the Great Lakes are covered. 50% of Lake Ontario is covered, which has meant our icebreaker boats, they've had to work extra hard this year. Let's head out on the lake with Mike Arsenault for more on that story. Thanks, Mike. And it looks like they're going to have to do a little bit more work tomorrow because the temperatures are still going to be below freezing, but less cold than what we've experienced this week. I'll get into those in a moment, but first let's take a look at our overnight temperatures along with the wind chills. Frigid. We do have an extreme warning in place for the Bruce and Grey counties, Owen Sound east towards Peterborough and Tweed. It's quite widespread. Dangerous wind chills expected through the overnight and into Saturday morning. By Saturday afternoon, you can see the core temperatures in white. They begin to rebound finally. I mean, -6 in Toronto. That's not bad. -7 in Hamilton. A perfect day, by the way, to get out, do some tobogganing in Hamilton. They've lifted the tobogganing ban. We have that full article online at theweathernetwork.com. Make sure you check it out. And by Sunday, temperatures are going to increase even more. But the price we pay for that, snow is on the way. This is going to be quite light, and by the time we get into Monday, the Monday morning commute particularly, shouldn't be too affected by this snow. It's going to track further to the east, clear and still quite mild, around -2 for much of southern Ontario by Monday. And then come Tuesday, this is going to be our big storm. We have the baby monster on Sunday, and then this big guy on Tuesday. Stay with us. We continue to track this storm.
This weather.
And from a look at our headlines across the world to right back here at home, your Ontario forecast coming up for you. Michelle Mackey in today for Gary Archibald. And we are under the grip of yet another frigid Arctic air mass through southern Ontario. Environment Canada has once again issued an extreme cold warning for the areas highlighted in purple. That includes Goderich, east towards Tweed. Through the overnight hours, we are talking about wind chill values in the -30s, -mid-20s. These are dangerous wind chills. The good news is we are going to see a bit of a reprieve as we move into Saturday afternoon. They still are below seasonal, but I mean, these temperatures, -6 in Toronto, that's downright balmy in comparison to what we've had the last week, isn't it? All right, now let's head outside because before we get to those warm temperatures, Mark Robinson still dealing with the frigid cold in Ancaster. Now, Mark, you're at Sherman Falls, but I can barely see any falls behind you. It looks pretty frozen. That's right, Mark. Lots to talk about. Now, before we get into the storm, we are going to see more mild temperatures again on Sunday, but the price we pay for the lack of wind chill on Sunday, the snow. It is going to be quite light. We have some energy coming from the southwest. Light snow. It's in terms of your timing, southwestern Ontario, Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon. It's going to be more of a story for the Niagara region, Toronto. And here's what we can expect for the next 7 days. I want to point out Tuesday. So you see the temperatures do begin to climb as we get into next week. But Tuesday, we are tracking an even bigger system. It's a phase, if you will, of an Alberta clipper. We have moisture from the Gulf and a Colorado low, and that is potentially going to be bringing with it widespread snow. This is going to be a significant story. We also have the potential of mixing, and it's all dependent on how this storm tracks. If it tracks further to the north, then we're going to see some mixing. If it tracks further to the south, then this is going to be a snow story. But we want the snow. We'll let you know throughout the hour coming up in your long ranger why that is. Here's what we can expect Tuesday. There's your big system, and that is going to track further to the east by Wednesday. And coming up in news in a minute, a snowball fight in Senate chambers, high Slurpee surf, and llama drama? We'll explain after this.
A snowball fight in Senate chambers. The Slurpee surf is high, and llamas on the run? This is news in a minute. A senator snowball fight. A Republican senator from Oklahoma feels very strongly that climate change is a hoax. How strongly? He brought in a snowball to the Senate chambers and tossed it on the ground to make a point. A few minutes later, a Democratic senator went to the floor to argue. Waves are turning to slush. After months of deep freeze, one Massachusetts photographer captured some chilling beauty when ocean waves turned to slush. Check out this shot of what he calls a Slurpee surf. Nearly frozen waves hitting the Nantucket shoreline. Lastly, the greatest high-speed chase ever. 3 llamas got loose on the streets in Arizona Thursday. A company had taken them to a senior care facility for a mobile petting visit. 2 of the llamas were on the lam for nearly 3 hours. Luckily, no one was harmed and the llama drama was over once they were caught.
I love the llama drama, Emily. Thanks for that news in a minute. Everything you need to know. And folks, you felt that cold, haven't you? We are well below seasonal. Michelle Mackey joining you. And this below seasonal temperature is going to last into Saturday, and then we have snow on Sunday. So lots to talk about in this segment, but let's talk about the fact that we have not seen the temperature over 0 since January the 24th. Currently in 4th place for one of the coldest Februaries that we've had in a very long time. But as we get into Saturday, I think we're going to bump up to that number 3. How about you? Here's what we're looking at through the overnight in terms of our temperatures. Lots of dark purples indicating temperatures, core temperatures, minus 15 or below. So that's what you'd read on your thermometer, but what it feels like, a lot colder than that because the wind chill is going to come into play. Now Saturday, we are getting a little bit lighter. We're going to be around the -6 mark as our Saturday daytime high in the city of Toronto, but that's going to feel quite nice in comparison. And then by Sunday, look at this, even lighter. That means we're bumping up to about -5, -4s through southern Ontario. But before we get there, we do have to deal with some snow on Sunday. That's, I guess, the price we have to pay for those warmer temperatures. And outside, bearing those cold temperatures today is Mark Robinson. I'll let you know more about the storms right after this. But first, Mark, what's the latest?
Coming, Michelle, I think you're going to tell us all about that.
That's right. And you know what, Mark? I like the way you think. You got to get out and embrace the winter. All right, taking a look ahead Sunday, you can see high pressure begins to move away. There's your low, bringing us light snow through southern Ontario. But then the next big storm, look at this. We have a merging of different systems, and that is going to be a big weather maker Tuesday into Wednesday, depending on the track, depends on the precipitation. No bricks. Wow. The photographer who shot this is a local surfer who says he's obsessed with waves. But even he wasn't surprised when prolonged cold turned the water around Nantucket into what he's calling slurpy surf. Stay with us. Your regional forecast is on the 10s. Thanks for tuning into the Weather Network. Michelle Mackey joining you. You know, February, it may be the shortest month of the year, but it certainly feels like the longest when we are in the grips of extreme cold. So cold that Environment Canada has issued an extreme cold warning for the areas highlighted in purple through southern Ontario. That's because the wind chills through the overnight and into Saturday morning are going to be not only below seasonal, but downright frigid. You can see here through the overnight, the blues, that's your feels like temperature. And we are talking about wind chills in the mid-20s for the most part. And our core temperatures, the temperatures that you would see on the thermometer outside, are also quite frigid. Hamilton, for example, overnight -16. Let's head to a gentleman in Hamilton who has submitted his video for the weather selfie.
Throw it back inside. This has been your weather selfie.
Poor Patrick, he was left all alone, but you know what? Future weather star in the making, well done. Hamilton, tomorrow by Saturday afternoon, we are going to see those temperatures rise slightly. A balmy -7, if you will. The wind chill will be a factor, but certainly not as cold as what we're feeling through the overnight, as I mentioned. Saturday also going to be clear across southern Ontario. A good day to get out and enjoy some winter activities. Sunday, the temperatures, you can see not much of a wind chill. They're relatively warmer, but we do have snow on the way. So active weather. Generally, we're looking at trace amounts of snow. You can see the higher amounts, 2 to 5 centimeters. London down towards Windsor, extreme southwestern Ontario. But we do have another system on the way by Tuesday. Clearing on Monday, high pressure comes back into place, -2 for your daytime high. And then Tuesday, there's your snowfall, -2, so the temperature's still relatively warmer than what we're feeling this week. But we're really watching this system carefully. It's a bit of a phase. It has an Alberta clipper, a Colorado low, some moisture from the Gulf. That comes together on Tuesday over southern Ontario. But depending on the temperature, we could see mixed precipitation. Thanks so much for that, Emily. Black llama in custody, white llama still on the loose. Did you ever think you'd see a headline like that? Me either. Okay, let's get into our weather story. Michelle Mackey joining you in for Gary Archibald. The big story through the overnight, of course, those frigid temperatures. We're seeing lots of purples through southern Ontario. That's an indication of temperatures minus 15 or lower. Now, as we move into Saturday afternoon, those temperatures, they're going to rise slightly. You can see we get into the blues, generally looking at the minus single digits, -6 for Toronto, still below the seasonal average of -2 until we get into Sunday when we lose most of the wind chill. We have a bit more of a southerly flow of air that brings up those temperatures even more. But Sunday, that's when we are going to be getting into some snow. I'm going to tell you why in just a moment. But first, let's head to Ancaster, where Mark Robinson is having fun at Sherman Falls. Thanks so much, Mark. Yes, spring is on the way. March 20th, we've also got our spring outlook coming up on Tuesday, March the 3rd. You don't want to miss that. All right, I mentioned why we were getting that snow on Sunday. We have a weak low that's skirting through southern Ontario. High pressure builds in behind it for Monday. But then look at this. We have a phasing of systems for Tuesday, Wednesday through Ontario. Now, this is also going to bump up the temperature. We have a southeasterly flow of air. And because we've got that rise in temperature, we could potentially be seeing some mixing through southern Ontario. It depends on the track. We are watching it carefully, and we'll continue to do so right here at the Weather Network. Speaking of Aurora Borealis, let's get into your northern lights forecast for the weekend. You know, we may have a big temperature contrast, mild in the west, colder through central and eastern Canada. But one thing we all have in common for the most part this weekend across the country, the ability to see the northern lights through the overnight. We are talking about mostly clear skies, so it is a good weekend to get out with the family and take a look up in the sky at our own natural wonder of the world. Let's get into some of our temperatures that we're looking at through the overnight. It is going to be frigid. These are our core temperatures, -15s, -17s through southern Ontario, and that's before we factor in the winds coming from the west that are giving us quite a strong wind chill. So strong, in fact, that Environment Canada has issued an extreme cold warning for parts of southern Ontario, Goderich, east towards Peterborough and Tweed, all encompassed in that extreme cold warning. Now, those are issued when temperatures are dangerously cold. It doesn't take long for frostbite to kick in. It is still going to be cold on Saturday. Clear, yes, but slightly warmer. We are going to see those temperatures increase slightly. They'll continue to increase as we get into Sunday. But because we have that southerly flow of air come Sunday, we are looking at some warmer temperatures, but light snow throughout southern Ontario. In terms of your timing, southwestern Ontario, you'll begin to see some flurries Sunday morning. And by the afternoon, evening, they will be reaching the GTA. Generally less than about 5 centimeters. The bigger story that we're watching comes on Tuesday. We have a merging of systems that's a combination of a Colorado low and Alberta clipper. We've also got some moisture from the Gulf. They phase together, bringing us widespread mixing. It's going to be a messy day through Ontario Tuesday and Wednesday. All right, and from your international headlines and force of nature, back to our weather story right here in Ontario. Michelle Mackey joining you in for Gary Archibald. Let's talk about the frigid air mass that is gripping Ontario once again today through the overnight and into Saturday morning. So cold that Environment Canada has issued yet another extreme cold warning. Look at this, Ro. Are you ready for spring? Me too. Okay, here's what we can expect for the next 3 days through southern Ontario. You can see we are going to see those temperatures increase slightly as we get into Saturday afternoon. Sunday, that's our next chance of seeing snow. It is going to be light. We have a weak low that's moving in from the southwest. But Saturday, before we get there, still dealing with high pressure, clear skies. If you have any traveling plans, Saturday is a good day to do that. Also a good day to get out, enjoy some winter activities with the family. Because come Sunday, skirting along southern Ontario, we have this low. Now, the bulk of the snow from this is going to be stateside. Places like Cleveland can expect 30 centimeters of snow. That's not out of the question. But as we look further to the north into southern Ontario, it's becoming trace amounts of snow. Looking at generally less than 2 centimeters of snow, higher amounts through extreme southwestern Ontario. In behind this system, we're going to have some clearing and somewhat mild temperatures, still below seasonal for your Monday. But then watch this. Tuesday, we have a phasing of systems. They meet over Ontario, and they're also going to bump up the temperatures. With that, we could see a very messy day come Tuesday, clears out by Wednesday. We'll have more details coming up.